Duncan McPherson here with Pareto Systems, and for the past 20 years, I've been showing elite financial professionals how to attract and keep great clients and how to professionalize the client experience and run their business like a business. The question is this: how do your clients describe you? Everybody says to me, how do I get more referrals? I say, well, why don't you get referrals? When the why is clear, the how gets easy. Why don't you get referrals? If I'm your client, and I'm at a restaurant with a friend having a burger, and my friend confides in me and says, hey, listen, are you happy with your financial advisor? Because I've just about had it with mine. What do I say? What do you think most advisors say to me when I ask them that question? What do you think? They say, I have no idea. And I say, that's kind of weird. It's kind of weird that you would want to listen to me tell you how to take your business to the next level before you ever listen to a guy like me. Make your clients the voice you listen to. How many of you have received a referral in the last 90 days from a client? How many of you? And I'm going to assume that after you got introduced to that person, you called up the Rainmaker and said what? Yeah, I mean, not saying thanks is like not feeding a goose that lays golden eggs, right? Wouldn't it be great at the end of the conversation just to say, you know, Chip, thanks a lot for introducing Steve to me. We had such a great meeting. Before I let you go, I just have to ask you. I mean, Steve was so engaged. He was so prepared. What did you say? How did you describe me? Now brace yourself if you're going to do this. Because you're probably not going to like what they say. Not because it's negative, but what you're going to realize is your clients don't know how to describe you. They talk about you in generalities and platitudes and superlatives. Oh, I just told me you're a great guy. You take care of us. You know your stuff. Which is really good. But isn't that just kind of a given? I mean, if I'm your client and I say to my friend, oh yeah, my advisor's great, I really trust him, is my friend going to say, no way, are you serious? You trust your advisor? That's novel. No, it's a given. Wouldn't it be great if your clients knew how to describe you? Wouldn't that be great? You're the architect of that outcome. Now, here's what's interesting. The number one reason why some of the best financial advisors in this business have clients who don't know how to describe the advisor to a friend is because the advisor does not know how to describe himself or herself. I don't know how you feel about where you're at in terms of your value proposition and how you position yourself and define yourself with a branding strategy. But for every 10 advisors at the highest level in this business, how many of those 10 have figured it out? How many do you think out of 10? 1-ish. You know how I reveal that? I ask them a really thought-provoking question. One of my favorite advisors in Southern California, been in this business for 18 years. I asked him this question when I first started working with him. You ready for it? It's pretty, I'll give you some time. You ready? So, what do you do? You know what he said? The guy in Southern California? You know what he said? Long pause. You know what he said to me? Man, I hate that question. I go, well, you've only had 18 years to work on it. I can see how I caught you off guard. He goes, no, I just... so what do you want? You want my elevator speech, my mission statement? What do you want? And I go, you got to stop right there. Everything you say is either a me too or a so what. A me too that resonates. You say it, it stops someone in their tracks and they go, say that again? Or a so what? You just sound like Charlie Brown's teacher. It's just noise. It just sounds like everyone else. I said, this is not an elevator speech. This is not a mission statement. This is a value proposition that's a verbal extension of your all-encompassing branding strategy. So what do you do? That's what he said to me. He said, well, okay, fair enough. I'm a financial advisor, 18 years experience. I help my clients achieve their financial goals. And I said, well, that is accurate. But I said, you can't bore someone into buying something. I mean, you just described 5,000 financial advisors. You've got to really add some personality and some identity. And you've got to use a structure. Again, you're in the knowledge for profit business. Every form of communication must be a process, must be a structure, a format that you follow. I call you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and wake you up and say it, and you say it, and it's as natural as breathing. And I'd like to give you the framework, the kickstart of that process. Now, I've had advisors who have cracked the code in a session like this and said, perfect, I'm good to go. Others, it's taken 45 days to figure it out. But the framework, I never get stumped. I have a motto when it comes to this. I'm always right eventually, okay? Sometimes it takes a little time, but this is a great framework. So you ready for this? Here we go. All right. So, when I ask you the question, what do you do? First thing I'm going to ask you to do on somewhere in your sheet of paper is write down the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Give yourself some room. These are the boxes I want you to check when you engage in a conversation to define yourself so that you are perceived and described as a consultant with a process, as opposed to a broker trying to make a sale. I hear so many attempts at this, and the broker just sounds like he's coin operated, right? Hunter-gatherer, I eat what I kill. This is the way to go. So here's the first thing I want you to think about. Number 1, who? Okay? Who is your ideal client? If from this moment forward you only predictably and consistently attracted this person into your business, who would they be? Tell the world you're not all things to all people, you're all things to some people. Create an aspirational environment. Project a little bit of scarcity. Remember supply and demand. Supply and demand. The more scarce the supply, what happens? What do you supply? What do you supply? A lot of people answer that question, they say financial services. No, that's the commodity. You supply time, right? You supply time. Make sure you consistently place a value on that. Create this aspiration. Now, the exercise I use to help an advisor come to grips with this is AAA. I want to ask you a question. I'm going to get into this more later. But do you consistently tell people who your ideal client is? Yes or no? Or is it this giant mystery? I'll ask you the question a different way. Have you ever received a referral from a client and then you met their friend and you said, oh, this is going to suck? Show of hands. You guys lie about other stuff too back there? How many of you won't raise your hands no matter what I ask? Wouldn't it be great if your clients knew who to introduce? Some people say, well, that's a fantasy. Well, you live by the rules you said. If it's a fantasy, I'm telling you it's by design. Remove the mystery. Describe your ideal client. Give it a frame, a framework, AAA. Your ideal client has the assets, the attitudinal qualities, and the advocacy to be an ideal client. That's the framework. Now remember the law of resonance. The law of resonance says the value of what you say begins at the end of the conversation. What are they thinking as they're walking out the door? An hour later, a day later, a week later. You tell your clients that your ideal client is a AAA client, they'll remember AAA, and they'll fill in the blanks over time. Your ideal client has the assets. Now here's the distinction between salesmanship and stewardship. Salespeople talk in terms of who they're looking for. Consultants talk in terms of who they're suited for. Who's a good fit? Say something that gets their attention, leave them wanting more, let them give you permission to go deeper. You know what he says now? I'm a wealth advisor, da-da-da-da, who want to achieve out, da-da-da-da. So I have developed and refined a process that puts all the pieces of that puzzle together. What did you hear? What did you hear? It's not what I say, it's what you hear. Does that sound like I've got 1 year of experience 18 times? Or does that sound like I've learned a few things? I've developed and refined a process. Now, invariably, he'll be talking to an accountant, he'll be talking to a prospective client at a golf course, and he'll say that, and they will say, well, how does that work? He's gotten so good at the Socratic method that he knows. Answer the question with another question. You know what he says when somebody says, how did that work? He says, well, have you ever tried to build a jigsaw puzzle without the picture? And they go, well, that'd be hard. And he goes, well, exactly. So my process puts all the pieces of the puzzle. And then as your life unfolds and your needs evolve, we get out in front of that. We put all the pieces together so you have the complete picture. That's how it works. Now, the cool thing about this is to understand, and this is really what I want you to grasp from this above and beyond, is the concept of future pacing. So let me ask you something. Do your clients understand everything you do? Yes or no? Or do they fixate on what you provided to this point in the relationship? Future pacing reminds your clients, if you want to become their personal CFO and gain their full empowerment, that the financial planning process is not static. It's fluid, it's dynamic. Critical life events occur. When something happens in their life, it renders their current financial plan obsolete. But you have a process that puts the pieces of that puzzle together. That's future pacing. Right? Remember, there's a big difference between a customer and a client. A customer dabbles with you. They do a little bit of business with you. They also do business with someone else. Client empowers you fully. And it's by design. You want to decommoditize your core solutions. You think of the commoditization of this industry, I mean, there are so many pressures at work that are emphasizing what you cost rather than what you're worth. You don't want clients to fixate on products, pricing, and performance. You want them to connect with and buy into your philosophy around achieving financial independence, your planning strategy, and your process. You're in the knowledge for profit business. You think for a living. You're not selling things. You're promoting the promise of the future. There are many things out of your control. The better you are at decommoditizing your core solutions, the more your clients will connect with and identify with your value, and you'll make yourself indispensable.